Everybody, thank you for joining us today for Ashbur's first webinar of 2026. I'm super excited to have attorney Jackie Collins with us today to talk about marketing your elder law practice. My name is Amber Hines and I'm the owner of Ashbur. We specialize in Medicaid compliant annuities as well as long-term care insurance solutions for clients that are healthy enough to qualify for pre-planning products like hybrid long-term care insurance policies. If you have any questions today during today's session, feel free to type those into the questions bar of the GoToWebinar dashboard. And if you're interested in a copy of the slides, Jackie has been gracious enough to send us a copy of those slides, and those are going to be made available after the presentation as well. So again, this is Jackie Collins. He is an attorney right outside of Columbus, Ohio. He's been practicing for 20 plus years in the elder law field. And now I'm going to hand things over to you, Jackie. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So today, again, my name is Jackie Collins of Collins and Cruz Law Office and Elder Law Connection. Today, we're going to be going over the 4 key elements to an elder law business and marketing plan. Those two really go together. Marketing is the most essential part of the plan. But through that, I'll tell you about different ways to market your elder law practice. Elder Law Connections is designed to help people that are just adding elder law to their already existing firm, whether it be an estate planning firm or maybe a different area of the law, or for people that are just starting out by themselves and have never done any of this estate planning, anything before, like I started. A little bit about me. Again, my name is Jackie Collins. Absolutely no relation to the romance novelist. If you know who that is, I'm sorry. If you don't, that's great. I think her height and popularity was in the 1980s when I was in elementary school, so that was very unfortunate. But I've actually been doing this for 13 plus years now with my own firm. Before that, I was an officer in the Army for 6 years. I started my own firm as soon as I could. I didn't want to work for anyone anymore. I wanted to have my own timeline, all those types of things. I've been with my wife, Erin, for 19 years, and we have 3 girls, ages 14, 11, and 8. And again, I started it mostly for them, mostly so I could have as much time as possible with them. I was in the Army for 6 years. I was deployed for a year, so I knew what it was like to be away from everybody. So I didn't want to do that anymore. I started out as a solo, it says elder law attorney on there, but I did start as a solo elder law attorney. But at first I just took kind of anything that walked in the door, whether, I did one child custody and divorce case, and it was just awful. I hated every second of it. I did several criminal law cases, had repeat clients, which was great because they paid, but it was also bad because I was getting repeat clients in criminal law cases and I didn't sit right with me. And actually, at first, I started doing a lot of landlord-tenant. And my first year, I had 15 landlord-tenant cases, and I actually won all 15. The problem was I was on the side of the tenant, so they didn't always pay. Then while I was doing all this, struggling to find an area of the law, one that I liked, that was going to get me to my goals of not working constantly, all those types of things. I ran into someone that did elder law in different part of the state here in Ohio. After talking about it with them, I just thought it was exactly what I was looking for. So I switched gears and went all in on elder law. I got some help with educational learning elder law itself, because they didn't teach that in law school. Using Lawyers with Purpose, and then switching to Elder Counsel, which is now Wealth Counsel. Even with all that, it was 9 months before I got my first case. It was a long time. The first couple years of my practice were up and down, the revenue roller coaster, as some say. I had time to go out and market and build all those foundational things when it comes to marketing and the business plan. But I'd go out and market it, and then when I'd finally start getting clients, I didn't have time to market because I was working those cases. So then my business would drop off, and then I'd have more time, so I'd go out and market again. There was a lot of marketing failures, a lot of wasted money those first several years, really. Trusting the wrong people, signing up for I signed up for a couple different when I was trying to do mailer presentations, signing up for companies that just had no return on investment whatsoever. Signing up for different parts of advertising, whether it's print or online, just all kinds of things. Just a lot of time and money not well spent, which is, if you use our program, hopefully you avoid all of that. You will avoid all of that. So how do you build that successful elder law practice? And we work with all kinds of people, like I said earlier, that are starting out, never, fresh from law school, have never done anything before, to seasoned attorneys that have been practicing, I think the longest is 30 years, but they were personal injury attorneys and they're tired of it and they want to get their schedule back, to all different types. I'm seeing if most of the people that seem to be wanting to switch from either personal injury or family law, kind of a divorce, child custody type practice. But we work with anyone. My first thing, even if you are experienced and have had your own practice for a while, make a marketing and business plan specific for your elder law practice. And the hardest part is just starting writing down ideas. If you've never done anything like this before, just write down what you think life will be like when you have your own practice and people are coming in, and what your goals would be. Doesn't have to be exact, doesn't have to be in a particular order. There's thousands of books out there that will help you. We help people develop this in our program, but there are lots of books out there and resources that you can use. It will have lots of mistakes and you'll want to change it often. You'll learn something new every day, and that will, then in turn, switch up how you run your business. What to include: your finances. What do you have money for? What do you have to have money for now? And what would be nice to have money for? So what does that kind of mean? For me, it meant, because when I started, my oldest daughter was born during the middle of law school. And then when I really started to branch out on this, our second daughter was born. So it was a lot of pressure on both my wife and myself. So at first I didn't have my own office. I used UPS store. Their mailboxes, you could just say on the envelope or on your website, you can just say, 22 Main Street, number 103. It made it look like I had an office. As opposed to if you go to a USPS store, United States Postal Service mailbox, it will say PO box on your address. So it doesn't look like that. That might be your first goal, is you want to find money to have your own office. I met people I paid for their lunch at Bob Evans, or I'd meet them in their home mostly, or at assisted living communities, things like that. You want to figure out how long you can go until you absolutely have to get your first case. I went 9 months. I was planning on 6. So it was getting pretty stressful there, months 6, 7, and 8, until that first case came in. So figure that out. I know, especially for first-time business owners, small business owners, there's not a lot of loans out there that you can get. I had to open up a few credit cards and just use those to pay for memberships and software and things like that. And then also, like I said before, write down what your goals are, both professional and personal. Most of the time it starts out as monetary, but you really need to think what else your goals are. We've developed a system within our firm that myself and my business partner usually work around 40 hours a week. So I never wanted to work the 60, 70, 80 hours a week. My business partner, Ren, she worked for a large law firm in Lower Manhattan, doing that grind of that many hours. That's one of the reasons she moved back to Ohio. I wanted to control my own schedule. I wanted to be available if there was a chance to volunteer at my kid's school or go on a longer vacation, all of those things. So write those down. You need to come up with a plan with your collateral. So what are your marketing materials? Those are hugely important. You really want to get most of those up and ready to go before you go out and start marketing yourself. Mainly, a lot of attorneys I talk to, some of them are very surprised when I say you can't just sit behind your computer desk all day and expect business just to walk in. You need to be willing to go out there and talk to people and put yourself out there to groups, businesses, everywhere you can to make this work. Your collateral is your brochures, and I'll go over this more in a minute, your presentations, your actual PowerPoints, your business cards, everything. In our program, we give people everything, even intake forms. And then you just put your branding on that. You need to identify what your potential referral sources are, which is a slide dedicated to that. And then start streamlining your office process now. Even if it's just you and it seems silly, to write it down makes a huge difference. What at first, if your money is, scarce, figure out what you can do for free and what will cost money and what's just a must-have. Create or redesign a logo for your law firm. I used, when I first started, I think it's really popular now. It might have been really popular then, but a website called Fiverr, which is supposed to cost $5 for a logo design. I think I paid $15 to have it in all the different formats. And that was the very first logo you saw on one of the first slides. Website refresh or redesign. My first two websites I designed myself using Squarespace, and the second time Wix. And by then, when I needed another update, I was able to hire someone. And that's, what questions to ask those people when you're hiring them. I know the first couple people failed to deliver a good website, and then I learned the hard way of what questions to ask. Brochures, business cards are a must. You got to develop a brochure to lead people in your business card. Email and phone number. When I first started, I used my cell phone number, and randomly, this many years later, someone will call my cell phone asking to talk to me. It's not ideal, but using those VoIP phones like Uma or GoToConnect can be $60, $75 a month, which is just a lot. Email, I highly recommend getting your own personalized email, so it's not just saying at Yahoo or anything like that. Number one elder law attorney at Yahoo doesn't look, or at Hotmail or whatever you may have, doesn't look 100% professional anymore. Real office space, that might be something like I talked about earlier, where you can put that off. If you're add that as a positive for people, I'll come to you, so you don't have to get out of the office, especially if they're older. It might not be easy for them to get out of the office. Joining local chambers of commerce, that mileage can vary depending on where you're located. Around here in Columbus, Ohio, there's lots of little chamber of commerce throughout all the little suburbs. We belong to 4 of them, and we're highly active in one. And it's a great return of investment. That's where you can do your grand opening, your ribbon cutting when you finally get your office and all of that. Free, what I focused on is finding community partners, which I'll go over here in a minute. Getting my elevator pitch down for networking groups when I just meet someone on the street, or a local bar association, going to some of their coffee and connections that some of these have. Almost all of them have something like that, and just practicing that over and over again. And then also trying to develop different elevator pitches for different audiences. Those are some of the free things that you can do to get your marketing going. Here's kind of the most important slide, really. When I started my elder law firm, I may have had 3 of these. And throughout the course of this many years now, this is kind of the main group of people I find to market to or with, or and get referrals from. And it'll all be time well spent if you just focused on these different people. There are other ones out there, but this is, I think, a fairly comprehensive list. Nursing homes, if you're looking to do Medicaid applications, which are generally the biggest revenue stream for people. Nursing homes need help. How do you market to them? Figure out how you solve their problems. Most nursing homes have a business office manager that's usually drowning with Medicaid applications. And you can say, hey, if you refer these type of clients to me, that's 4 or 5 I could take off your plate each month. I just did a presentation to the staff of a local nursing home yesterday. Every nursing home could be different. Some places the business office manager could be taking care of it. For some reason, some places has the executive director helping, but just trying to get them in a room and figuring out how. One, the most obvious is that you could refer clients to them. So and then 2, how you can solve their problems when it comes to Medicaid applications, things like that. When I'm talking to assisted living memory care, that's what I focus on. We also do veterans benefits, which are a lot, much more difficult to get nowadays, but it's still possible. Not every state has a Medicaid program that pays fully for assisted living and memory care. We're lucky here in Ohio that for the most part, the full room and board is paid for. I know most states don't have it at all, and some only will pay for the actual care costs and not room and board, which can be the majority of the costs. So if you have assisted living or memory care that gets paid for in full in your state, you have so many more opportunities to market and get revenue streams from those places. Independent living, love having people in. You tell them, hey, I can come and tell your community about how to avoid probate. I can tell them if something goes wrong and you know it's a married couple and somebody becomes sick, how the person can stay in independent living and the other person can go to a nursing home, and we can figure out how they get that paid for without anybody moving. Same thing with the community center. They're always looking for presenters. It's very easy if you offer to pay for lunch for that community center, which might take you a while to get to that point, but it's generally around $6 to $8 a person. We have about 12 different community centers in the area that we do a lunch. We rotate them every quarter. We'll do 4 or 5 with the goal of doing about 4 presentations a month at all these different places. But the community center is great because they might not use you then. They might not use you next year. It could be 5 years from now. They still have your brochure. They still remember your presentation, and then they want to call you. And then so investing a couple $100 in buying someone, bringing Panera in for 15 or 20 people is worth it. Home health care companies is a huge source of referrals. It's your target audience. They're starting to go through a crisis usually, or starting to need care. So that's usually the first place people look is how can I stay in my home but get more care. Realtors is another great one. You tell them, hey, I can send people your way because if you're doing a Medicaid crisis case and they have to sell their house, they might need help selling that house. So we refer to several realtors a couple times a month, financial advisors. I had a lot of trouble and still do have a lot of trouble with financial advisors. The first group that kind of helped me get started put a lot of emphasis on meeting with financial advisors because that's how their founder got started and really became successful. And I met with, and it's not an exaggeration, 90 financial advisors in the span of about 10 months. And I don't work with any of them. All the financial advisors I work with now, I met organically through clients. The issues there were almost, of the 90, I bet 70 to 80 of them only were interested in how many people I could send them each month. And when my answer is, well, I'm just getting started, so it might not be any for a while, they didn't care. They want to hear anymore. And that was the majority of them. Some of them I just didn't like the personality, all those other things. But at first, your biggest value is saying, I'm not going to take advantage of your clients. I'm not going to direct them to a different financial advisor. I'm going to be able to protect their assets. So if they ever do need long-term care, you'll still have money to invest at your firm, and it won't have to be all liquidated and spent down to nothing. Downsizing companies are great. I also would look for investment firms. That we have 2 or 3 here in Central Ohio that I actually trust and use quite often. They kind of specialize in the elder arena of people needing to sell their house that aren't in the best condition. They give fair prices. It's not like the sign you see on the telephone pole. But they are really good. We get several referrals a month from them. Placement companies, mileage can vary there too, but everyone's heard of a Place for Mom. If you can find a local representative, it's really hard for them. They don't always have a local person to talk to. But in Central Ohio, there's a lot of placement services. I'd say at least a dozen. Every state's a little different. In Ohio, they're not regulated, which isn't the best thing in the world. Other states, they are regulated, so there's not as many. But talking to a placement company that helps place people in assisted living or memory care or even nursing homes can help. The biggest one, networking groups. I think the Central Ohio area probably has at least 10 networking groups, Southwest area networking group, Franklin County networking group, Franklin County Task Force on Aging, Delaware County Task Force on Aging. These are great, especially at first, because just spending an hour at their luncheon or morning meeting over coffee, you're meeting everybody you want to in your field. There's going to be a realtor there. There's probably be a financial advisor there. There's definitely going to be home health companies there, hospice companies there. There's going to be representatives of nursing homes and assisted living and independent living there. Getting to know them and just showing up on a regular basis, even if you're too afraid to talk much at first, just them seeing you. I remember when I first got started, so many attorneys would show up maybe once a year, and they would never, these people would never see them again. I was telling Amber the story earlier of just being consistent. and showing up and getting that reputation and getting in the door. Which I'll share that story here in a minute. But just getting out there, I can't stress that enough. You need to get out there. Just setting up a website, and depending on SEO, might work a little bit, and it might expedite your trajectory faster, because I didn't do any of that when I first started. But if you really want to take it to the next level, you're selling you and your ability to take care of people without taking advantage of them. Before I hit this slide, one of the things we do is help you develop your elevator pitch, all your presentations and everything. And that should, again, expedite your situation so you're not just standing there with a blank look on your face. And that will get you clients faster. When I first started, actually, I started about 30, 45 minutes in a town, 30 to 45 minutes away from where I lived. So I knew that I'd probably lock up. I would walk into a building, get overwhelmed with anxiety, and walk out sometimes. But I perfected my elevator pitch at those buildings because I thought if I made a jerk out of myself, I'm 30 minutes from where I want to be, and it won't be a big deal. And then after 3 or 4 weeks of just going out every day or every few days, hitting up my list of buildings and places and people to talk to, I started working my way back to where I wanted to be, and just struck gold. I walked into senior living community, independent and assisted. And actually the first person I talked to randomly is my new marketer. We have a marketer, her name's April. She was there when I first started. She was their marketer, but she just started with Collins and Cruz December 1st. So it all comes back. It's a small industry, you'll find. And they had literally just thrown out an elder attorney out of their building because he had taken $8,500 from someone and didn't do any of the work really. So they could have yelled at me, all kinds of things, because I walked in about 30 minutes after that happened. They asked me if I could help the family. I did it. I actually did it pro bono, just to get in good, because they were very upset. And it turned out that building had 4 sister buildings in the area, and that's where I started taking off. Just being consistent and getting out there, even when it felt awkward. So while you're doing all of that, you might have a client, but think about your process. I hate to say it, but again, if you use our system, we'll give you an analysis form, we'll give you intake form and fee schedules and fee agreements and all that stuff. If you're trying to do it on your own, while you're doing everything else I just talked about, try to develop your office internal process, because then it's just easier when you hire someone. You can say, this is what I've been doing on my own. I meet them, I talk to them for 10 to 15 minutes. I try to calm them down, because it's a crisis if you're doing Medicaid crisis cases. If it's just a pre-planning, estate planning, asset protection, trust type of case, it's a little lower stakes. I send them the analysis form. With that form, I say that's your ticket to get your free consultation, which I'll talk more about in the next slide, whether you offer or not free consultation or not. And then from there, I get that analysis form back. We have the consultation. Then what do I do? And just mapping that out. And you'll change that a lot. But getting that started early and not trying to do that retroactively, like, oh, I'm going to hire someone. Now you've hired someone because you're overwhelmed. You have to train them. You have to market. You have to meet with clients. And you didn't have that process in place. So you're going back and trying to piece it together as you go along. Oop, shoot, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. So bonus item, free or paid consultation. I do free consultations. It sets us apart from other attorneys in our area. A lot of the attorneys in our area charge anywhere from $500 to $1,500 for a consultation. They offer free consultations, but this is, again, one of the way I differentiate our firm is they have a 15-minute phone call, and then generally we'll tell people, we can answer all your questions, but you have to pay us this amount for a full consultation. We do full consultations with people. It creates a rapport, I found, with families before in those situations. Sorry. before they even come to the office. You talk to them over the phone, generally with a free 15-minute consultation or 20-minute over the phone, calm them down or answer their initial questions. You know, when I didn't come from a family of attorneys or anything. My family got taken advantage of by an attorney when I was growing up, and they paid a lot of money for a consultation. What was a lot of money to us at the time for a consultation. And during that consultation, I remember my dad basically said, he spent an hour saying how the different ways he couldn't help us, but they were still out of all that money. So you're putting forth a little good faith, and hopefully they are too. Remember, they've given you that analysis form before they even come in, so they're showing a little good faith. The biggest thing is you tell your referral partners, you tell that assisted living community, you tell that home health company that people can get sent their way and they're not going to be immediately charged money just to talk to you. That's one of the biggest reasons I think I started getting referrals quicker. A lot of the pushback, and it's more on the next slide, is you can give clients answers and you can tell them how much those will cost if they go through a plan A or B, and how to fix it, how much does that cost. But this area of the law, especially Medicaid and VA, is so nuanced that even if you tell them what you would do to fix their problems, they're not going to be able to do it on their own. And then you have better informed clients. They'll leave knowing where they stand, how much everything will cost, have a high opinion of you, and want to use you, and then want to tell everybody else about you. So those are the pros. The cons, I hear the typical ones: giving away free information, giving away your time for free, people shopping around, kicking tires. I don't see that very often. I thought I'd see it way more often, as many warnings as I've gotten about not charging for consultations. I bet we get 2 or 3 a year. And you find out pretty quick. Most of the time now, they'll say in their initial email, I just want to know the price for everything, so I know if I even want to meet with you to begin with. That's generally not going to be a good client, because the price is never going to be good enough. And if you do give them a discount trying to get their business, they're going to be the biggest pain in the butt for you or your staff. They're going to ask a million questions. They're going to take advantage of you every way, shape, and form. So I just don't see it very often. The cons, you're telling people how to do stuff, and they'll go out and try to do it on their own. Again, same thing with people shopping around. I see it once or twice a year. In fact, it just happened to our office very recently, where someone, I could tell during the consultation that this is what this person was going to try to go do for her mom, is apply for Medicaid. And I warned against it, because I said, I think I'm getting the vibe you're going to go try to do this on your own, which is fine because the costs are high. And then I would say, this is why I'd caution you against it. And then that was several months ago, but she just came back this month saying that she's been denied and it's all, gone terrible, and she doesn't know what to do next. So those are the pros and cons for giving out free consultations. I highly recommend them. You might feel differently. So if you want to learn more about Elder Law Connection and how we're different, there are elder law coaches out there. A lot of it seems to be, I don't know if it's all true, but a lot of online training and coaching and watching videos. We do in-person training, and it's just you. The last firm that came to me was from Pennsylvania. They came to Columbus and followed me around for 2 or 3 days. They were here for 2 days. It was 2 different attorneys, and they watched a presentation. They sat on client consultations. They went out on marketing, both a cold call marketing call and then to a marketing group to see how things were talked about and what to say and those types of things. And it was very helpful. And then they went back to Pittsburgh. They took what they learned here, developed their own marketing plan. They tried to find healthcare groups, all that stuff I talked about earlier in their area. And then I go to them. On the first day, I'll go out with them and do most of the talking. And then second day, they start taking over. In the Army, we call it a left seat, right seat ride. One day you're driving, the next day you're the passenger observing and helping out. So that's how we're different. And we try to get you profitable faster, as quickly as possible. And you can read the rest here. We give you the intake forms, the presentations to make your own, the brochure templates, business card format, rack cards, everything. If you want any more information, I don't know if I can't see if any questions have been asked in the chat, but this is how you set up a discovery call. You can email me right there. You can call me at that phone number and leave a voicemail if I don't answer. Our website's going to get a refresh here, hopefully within the next month or two, so it might look completely different the next time you visit it. But let me know if there's any questions out there. Amber, I can't see them again, but.
Yes, thank you, Jackie. We do have a couple of questions. One is, how long are your free consultations, and do you have a hard cutoff time?
No hard cutoff time. My typical consultation lasts 45 minutes to an hour. So one of the things I teach you how to run a very efficient consultation. I know the last group, like I was talking about the grass group of attorneys, that was their biggest takeaway. They had a estate planning practice, but they were adding Medicaid and elder law to their practice, and their consultations would last an hour or two. And if they can, and they were only able to take, so many consultations a week, because, if they took 2 consultations a day, that's half their day, and they have other stuff to do. So getting it down to 45 minutes. I don't have a hard cutoff time. Typically what I tell people, even when I'm giving presentations to the community, I go, what usually happens, especially in crisis cases, so dad went to the nursing home yesterday and we don't know what to do, is I'll talk to somebody over the phone, calm them down. We leave time in our calendar for crisis cases. And we try to get them in the door within 3 business days, faster if we can. Generally, we're going to be talking to, this sometimes it's hard at first because you're just talking to the person dealing with the emergency, is you got to figure out who's the financial power of attorney, who actually has the authority to make decision here, and get them in. And then you'll talk to them, and generally they're going to be so overwhelmed with information that they're going to want other family members to help them. And so if you're talking to maybe a spouse, they're going to want their kids to come in. So we'll actually do 2 consultations for free. And generally the second one is a phone conference where I get everybody on the same page. Sometimes it's another in person, but generally if I'm doing another one for free, they're going to sign up. And Medicaid crisis cases generate the most revenue for our firm, so it's worth it. So hopefully that helps.
Another question that we got is, how many times do you generally meet with the same client?
So me as the attorney, I'll meet with them during that consultation. I'll do the consultations, whether, again, the phone call. I am lucky to have an amazing office manager who can triage the phone calls really, really well. She had been in the elder law industry for 10 years when I met her, so I didn't have to train her or do anything. You guys might not get that lucky. But I typically will meet with them in the consultation, come up with a plan, write out that plan, and I pass them off to our paralegal or benefits coordinator to take the family from there. They'll get the intake done. They'll get the start gathering all the documents for if it's a Medicaid or VA application. They'll work with Ashburn for our Medicaid annuity if we need annuities. And I just meet with them once. So most of my week, I'm either in client meetings or I'm out marketing. But again, I work, I'm done, in the summer, we're not open on Fridays. In the winter, I'm usually done by noon, and I'm done by 3 o'clock every day. Usually work 8 to 3, 7:30 to 3, so I can pick up my girls from school, because that's what's important to me. So I don't know, hopefully that helped answer, but that's what my week is. Of course, if you're starting out by yourself and you don't have staff yet, then you're going to be doing everything, but maybe that will be your goal, is to get to that point where it's a system. So if you go on vacation, the system's still working.
Mm-hmm.
So
how many Medicaid cases do you handle on average each month?
It can vary depending on time of year, but I think at our peak this year, we were doing 10 to 15 cases a month. We had one of our slowest Decembers ever. I think that might start be a growing trend with now that it's more baby boomers needing it, needing long-term care. But yeah, about 10 to 15 per month. When I first started, 1 per month was the goal, because that, 1 Medicaid case would fund my solo practice, and just baby steps to grow, and to grow at the right times, because that's the hardest. Those have been the hardest times for me, is when we brought more people on. Of course, then your payroll is larger, but your your total revenue might not have grown that much yet, but you're at that weird point where you're getting enough business where your staff, your people are overwhelmed, so you need someone else, but you don't necessarily have the funds to justify it, especially if you have a down month randomly. So
we have another question here. We're already in the established elder law. I'm already in an established elder law firm, but need to work on marketing. Is that something that you can help with also? We just brought on a second attorney and we want to start doing more Medicaid, but our process makes it hard because they're so intensive.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we do. Elder Law Connection doesn't really teach you Medicaid law in your state. We can help. We can give you to different resources like Wealth Council's videos to learn the law. I try to find educational courses for you in your state to learn how Medicaid law works in your state. Like in Ohio, there's a conference every year that goes from Medicaid from start to finish, and it's amazing. Most states will have something similar. Not every state, but a lot of states will. So I mainly am working on your marketing, your collateral, also your brochures and all of that, to help get people more revenue faster and be more efficient with the time they are spending with clients and then post clients. Getting that process set up so you can just do the revenue generating time for the attorney rather than processing paperwork time.
Mm-hmm. So there's a follow-up to this. It says, we know how to do the Medicaid applications, but we need to make them more efficient for our support staff. Is that something that you're able to help with?
Yeah, I'll look at how you do it now and try to give you as many pointers of what we do differently. Sometimes Medicaid applications are just hard to just muddy waters, depending on how efficient your local agency is. I know Franklin County is understaffed and overworked, all of those things. I say this all the time in my presentations. Franklin County might take 100 to 120 days to process the application. If we're doing one in a smaller county in Ohio, it might take a month. It just depends. So some things are outside of your control, but you can definitely we definitely give pointers on how to submit the application, how to tab an application, how to write a cover letter for an application, all those little things that can add up to make things go faster.
Okay, when you were first starting out, what was the first hire that you made to your firm?
My office manager / paralegal. So when I joined Elder Council, now Wealth Council, they assigned you someone to teach you their system and their software. I'm a big fan of their drafting software. And Lynn was my coach. So she'd also give you pointers on maybe things to do for marketing and things like that. I was starting to get a lot of business in, and I was starting to get overwhelmed, and I was tired of the roller coaster, of revenue. So I was talking with her. And then one day she just said she was going to leave and was interested in if I was be able to take her on. And as soon as I had someone to follow up and triage phone calls and set my calendar and do those things, it allowed me more time just to meet with more clients because I wasn't spending so much time doing the administrative work or drafting the trusts after I signed them up or drafting the other legal documents. And I was able to market more. And then my worst, and I was saying this earlier, that one of my worst things is I'll have a great meeting, but then I have to follow up on that meeting, beyond the email. You got to have somebody to follow up, and that's what Lynn does. She doesn't pester people. We don't call every day, twice a day, but we follow up. Hey, how you doing? How's your mom feeling? Is she still in the hospital? Have you made a decision on where yet? Something else developed that you're not sure about. Many times I'll be like, oh my God, I needed to call you, but you're just on my list of the million things that they're going through in this crisis. So, that's the biggest hire, is finding someone to answer your phone. Well, it doesn't have to be a paralegal. I was just lucky enough that Lynn was also a paralegal, so she could take care of drafting and multiple things. So that's the first hire. And then we got a benefits coordinator, was our second, when our Medicaid applications and VA applications really started to skyrocket. Because I was doing those myself, so sitting down and tabbing them and working with someone to come up with the Medicaid annuity until we could hire our first benefits coordinator. And right now we only have, we have myself, our staff is small. You don't want to grow too fast because if you have bad months in a row, it's just awful. But we have our office manager, Lynn. We have my business partner, Ren Cruz, I brought on 4 years ago. Myself. We have a benefits coordinator, and she has an assistant. And we have a marketer, full-time marketer. So that's 6 people. So we're very lean and efficient.
Awesome. So there's another question here about, do you recommend SEO or paying to boost Google populations and such? It seems like SEO is a waste of money.
I wouldn't, this is hard because I went through one, I'm trying to count, I think 5 different firms that promised the world for SEO. And so many of them promise the world. They have catchy videos. They're very good salespeople. But very little return. With that being said, about 6 months ago, I found a local company through my chamber that has been really good. The SEO isn't their primary function. It's kind of one of the many things they do for me that took it off my plate. Because something else I was bad about was social media, posting pictures and content. I just don't have any desire to do that. So I would get on a kick and do it for like 3 weeks, and then I'd be silent for 6 months. So I was able to make room in the budget to hire them, and they work on our SEO. It's not as much as maybe other SEO only firms do, but I bet we get 1 or 2. I think last month we got 3 referrals, and really I only need 1 to pay for their services, but they also do all my social media. Every month or so, every 6 to 8 weeks, they'll come and we'll have a content shoot morning where they'll develop scripts for me, and they'll do all of this stuff. And I just sit there and read what's put in front of me, or I have a casual conversation with them. And then if you look at our Instagram or Facebook, all that video is just from one shoot, and they use it many different ways. They finally got a monthly newsletter I've been wanting to do since I started. The first one went out in December. So it's been that long. If you find the right place, and they work with anybody, so I could definitely recommend them, but to anybody, but it takes a while. And if you would have asked me last year, I'd probably say no. But now I'm starting to see if you have someone that's not all show, it does help. That's a long answer to what should have been a simple question.
But. When you go into a facility for the first time, who are you asking to speak with? The owner, social worker? Who do you usually try to pinpoint to talk to?
Typically, I talk to the marketer and the business office manager. I'll ask them their pain points. If it's a Medicaid accepting building, like who does the Medicaid applications? Typically, when I first started, I'd say, hey, I'm an elder law attorney. I've been practicing for this long. You might leave that out if you're brand new. I had some clients come to me and mention your building. They were thinking about moving in. It was one of the options, and I realized I've never been there before. Can you give me a tour? The marketer at all of these buildings has to do so many tours a week. At least everyone I've ever talked to, they have a requirement. So they'd love to give you a tour because then they can put you in their system. And once I get to know them, I go, hey, do you want to have people from the community come into your building and you can host a seminar or a workshop on estate planning? And then talk to the business office manager. The executive director you definitely should talk to them. It's different. Executive director and marketer are the top 2, then the business office manager. Through them, you should naturally meet the social worker. If it's a nursing home, they're more important to talk to then. It's a little different with assisted living, at least where I'm at. How much interaction social workers have on new or prospective residents for these places. I eventually got to know some of the owners. It just depends on how big you're looking. If you want to start at the top, you can. They're a little harder. There's one building, several buildings in Columbus area that have been bought and sold 2 or 3 times and just in the last 18 months, 18 to 24 months. And it's a lot of out-of-state venture capitalist firms are buying these buildings, unfortunately. And so it's really hard to talk to that top level down person. At least in our area, it's starting to become harder. So yeah, I would focus on the executive director first, have her introduce you to the marketer or vice versa, either one, and then talk to the business office manager. And then also, if the building has a separate, not all do, have a separate activities coordinator. That's where you talk about doing a presentation or bringing in lunch, or this one independent living community had a happy hour every Friday where the sponsors would bring all the booze, and I was just shocked. I had to bring like 3 cases of beer and 6 bottles of wine, and I'd bring a bottle of bourbon or something, and it'd all be gone within the 2.5 hour happy hour for like, and there was like 40 people there. But they would let me talk and do all those things, and it was definitely worth it. But
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think that covers all of the questions that we received, but obviously if anybody has any questions afterwards, feel free to reach out to Jackie using the contact information that is on the slide here. If anybody has any questions related to Medicaid planning in your state, Ashburn is always here to help with those types of questions. And I want to thank you, Jackie. This presentation was great. I think it's a topic that a lot of people, a lot of attorneys, both people that have been in the industry for a while and newer practitioners would find valuable. So thank you for your time and your knowledge and experience. And I hope everybody has a great 2026. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for having me.